Hey guys, my name is Bianca. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm a software engineer and thanks for stopping by. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how we can create PDFs using React components through the OneDoc Labs client and their React PDF library. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so before we get started with this hands-on tutorial, I just want to talk about why I chose OneDoc. One, I wanted the generation to be on the server side rather than client side. A lot of these client side PDF generation libraries rely on a DOM being hidden on your page, and I did not want that. So that's why I chose something where I can convert my HTML to PDF server side, and OneDoc client does that for you. On top of that, they also are able to host that PDF for you, so you don't have to set up an S3 or something else for that. It's just in one client that generates it and hosts it. And if you're thinking about the pricing, they actually have a pretty good deal. It's an open source project, and they only charge you 10 cents per rendering. And that's if you go past the 500 free API calls. All right. And when I am using OneDoc to test or in my development environment, I really don't have to use the API or the file storage, the hosting feature of OneDoc, right? So I can just use their test functionality, which doesn't cost anything and it's just watermarked. And yeah, and that's why I think OneDoc is a really, really good solution for those wanting to generate PDF using React components and have it done on the server side. All right. So now that I've explained to you why I chose OneDoc, let's get started on how to use it. On my right-hand side, I'm going to keep the documentation here because this is what we're going to go off of. We're going to be following this documentation as it is laid out. And on my left-hand side, I have my OneDoc demo folder here, and I'm actually just going to open my terminal if I can. Perfect. And then I'm actually going to create a Next.js project. And for this, I'm going to be using the Yarn as my package manager. So let's say create next app. Okay, and I'm just going to say select whatever is default. All right, so it says here to sign up and generate your API key. I already have that. And if you don't have that, go ahead and pause this video to get your key. Once you're done getting your key, put it somewhere, put it on a .env environment. That is what I recommend doing. And I'll be actually doing that later on in this video. But to get started here, I'm going to install the OneDoc Node.js SDK because we're using JavaScript. So there you go. And it says here to create a folder within the app. But for me, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and create a file directly on the root folder or the app folder. And I'll say here pdf.tsx. Simple as that. And then we can copy this, but I actually don't want to. I want to make my own. All right, so for this one, we're going to say default function PDF. We're not going to be accepting any props, but we are going to be returning the PDF component. And before I actually go ahead with this, we need to also install the React print library. So for that one, I'm going to use this. All right, so now that we have that, I actually wanted to wrap my components in Tailwind so that I can use Tailwind class name. All right, so it says here Tailwind, and I'm just going to wrap my child components or my whole PDF component inside of that. And then we'll go back to shell here. As you can see, they have a bunch here. They have page top, current page top, page bottom, no break, page break. So I actually want to have a footer. And for that, I'm going to do page bottom. Now, for this to work and for it to actually be displayed at the bottom of all pages, you have to put it on top of your PDF component. All right, if you put it at the bottom like you would think you should, it won't show up in all pages. It'll only show up on that single page. And it's weird, but I talked to the creators of OneDoc and they said that that's how it should be implemented. All right, so now I have page bottom, and now it's time to start creating our children components, which will actually be on the PDF, the content of the PDF. And it's giving us an error that it's not imported, so let's import that. All right, so for this one, I'm actually going to be using Flexbox and utilizing Tailwind CSS. OneDoc doesn't support grid Tailwind classes yet, so we're going to be using Flexbox. And I basically want to have two columns, so I'm going to say flex and, oh, I don't know where the closing tag went. And then for that one, I'm going to create two classes. And for this one, I'll say this is the first column. And for this one, I'm going to say that we want them to have the same sizes. So we'll say flex1. I'm going to give this a pink background, and the text is going to be blue. And then we're going to do another one. We'll say div. And then inside of it is paragraph. This is the second column. And I will just copy this class name, but we are going to invert it. So instead of having background here, we'll say text, and this is going to be background. Perfect. All right, so we're going to save that. Now it's time to go on the third part, and that is to generate the PDF. And for this one, I'm actually going to put it in a utils folder. And by the way, we are using TypeScript. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. We're going to copy this. We're just going to change a few things. So for instance, this doesn't exist. So we're going to say import PDF. And we'll say PDF. It doesn't accept any prof, so I'm gonna have to remove this. And then I actually don't want this to be an IIFE, so I'm gonna change this to a regular function that we can call using a button. Okay. And let's make sure to export that. Export default generate. Perfect. So for the OneDoc key, again, I suggest doing it through the .env file. So give me 1 second to implement that. I now have my .env file, so I'm just going to read the value from that. Process.env, and then whatever key you decided to put. All right. So let's see the error. It's saying not assignable to parameter type string. All right, so it looks like this is saying it's string or undefined. So we'll put a condition here. If OneDoc is undefined, then we just return it. Otherwise, continue with this whole process. Format this real quick. All right, so for this one, it says test, right? To produce this PDF in test mode. And this one is to host a document. So when you do save, you're actually going to be using the API. So that's -1 on your 500 API calls. And we don't want to do that right now. So I'm going to comment that out, and then we'll just say test. And then, so we're not going to get the link. So we want to write the file that it's going to return into the file contents, rather, that it's going to return to a readable file. So for that, we're going to use write async, which they already imported. And say write file sync, and I want to put it actually in the public folder. So for that one, I'm going to copy the path, put it in here, and then we're going to give it a name. What name should we give our PDF? Demo.pdf. That's good. And then we'll do the file. Okay, actually, I think we need to give it a buffer. Yeah, buffer. So we're just gonna be sure, and then we'll say buffer.from. So we're reading the buffer from that file. Okay, and then for this one, I'm gonna say, once it's done, I'm gonna say your file has been generated. All right. So now we have to hook this up on a component in our page. I actually created a component on the page, which is a button, and it has an on click that calls handle on click. And inside of this function, we're going to go ahead and call generate. All right. Perfect. So now when I do yarn dev, and then we can go to localhost 3000. Can't resolve. So it's can't resolve fs. Okay. We're using use client. We're trying to do this on the server. So we gotta declare this file as a server function. So you'll say use server. Right. And now it should, perfect. So it built, let's click on generate and we should see the console logs on here. Okay, so it says your file has been generated. This is exciting. We go to the public folder. And there you go. We have our column. Oh, wait a second. We put that on page bottom, didn't we? So let me change that real quick. Yeah, we said page bottom. I did not want that actually. I just want to say here a paragraph and say that this file was generated using OneDoc client. Okay. And then outside of page bottom is our actual content. So, okay, I can just click on format document here, save it, and then I think it's compiled. So let's do it again, generate it again. And then once we see the log, then we'll check it again. Okay, file has been generated. Let's see. Perfect. There you go. This file was generated using OneDoc and it's at the bottom like we wanted. And then we have two columns here. Amazing. All right. So now I actually want to show you how to put an image on there. So we're going to say on here image and this is, we'll do the height as auto here. I know it's auto anyway. So we'll say image and then we'll give it a source. But right now, I believe you can use a direct link. So if we say heart icon, I don't know. We can use this and then we'll say copy image address. We do it on here. Perfect, right? Let's regenerate it. So if I click on generate, wait a little bit. Boom, we got the heart on there, but it took a lot of space, that's for sure. So let's give it width and a height. So we'll say height is going to be 200 and then width is 200. So when we generate it now, all right, perfect. There you go. It's on there. Now, the question you might have, right, is what if I wanted to be reading off of a folder? So what we can do is save this, save image as downloads. And then I'm actually going to put this in public here. We'll rename this. We'll say heart. And if I do just a path like you normally would on a React component and in Next.js, you'll just say slash and then the name, right? Because this should be reading off of public, the public folder. You will see here that it actually won't work. So I just want to demonstrate that real quick. I'm expecting it to not show any image, and that is because OneDoc client doesn't have access to that file, right? So, yep, there you go. It's not on there. So how do you do that? How are you going to tell OneDoc, hey, the file is on this folder? So when you go to your generate function where you are using the OneDoc client, you actually want to use assets here. Okay, and then you're gonna put the path, and the path that we use, so path is what you used on your image source. So the path would be heart.jpg, right? That's what we use. And then we're gonna say to read it. So we're gonna read, and then we're gonna say public on here, and we're joining it. So we're gonna do heart.jpg, right? So when I save that, what it's saying is, hey, OneDoc client, read this file that is whatever the base is, and then public, and then heart.jpg, and map that to this path that that I applied on my PDF component that is being generated. Okay, so now when we generate it, perfect. I wonder why. Let's figure this out. Actually, I might just not do this and just give it the path. So we'll give it a path and see if that actually works. Let's make sure that on our PDF we're saying heart.jpg. So generate would be heart.jpg. Okay. All right. So now let's click on it. Perfect. There you go. Because now you're telling OneDoc to actually read from that file or folder. I hope now you understand how to use a OneDoc client along with their React PDF library to make your React component compatible with the renderer. If you are using Vercel to deploy your application, it is important to note that reading the asset through read file sync might not work, or async might not work, just because of how Vercel deploys your application. All right, so I recommend putting all your assets in a CDN or a file storage where you can just use a link to directly use it as a source on your image elements or whatnot. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, just let me know. I will be posting this GitHub repo, or this project on GitHub, and providing the GitHub repo below so that you can review it if you need to. All right, and that's it for today's video. Again, thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you liked it. Bye-bye.